the one after we actually have one left in
Guys, we're going to get started in just a few minutes, but there's free food in the back, also stickers and notebooks, and I'm not sure what other goodies Kathy brought, but please help yourself. And also, we're recording this, so that's why the room is structured in kind of a weird way, just feng shui. But we're trying to make sure that we record it, so we capture you all and our free student panelists. So at the beginning, we'll just make sure that you can obviously see the screen, and then when we shift over to the panelists, we can hopefully direct your attention over here. Probably wondering why we set it up this way, though.
Do you know where that picture is?
No, I don't. You know, we were established in January of 2020, and so unfortunately we haven't had an opportunity to send students to the field yet, so we've been using stock images. But this could be you. I don't know where this is.
I'm here for it.
But it looks awesome. Although it's kind of dangerous, so actually please don't do that if you go on a program. That looks dangerous. That doesn't align with our safety protocols. Like your screensavers, I always wonder where those shots are taken.
I know.
Yeah.
You can somehow figure out where it's taken, right? I just don't know how to do that.
A lot of the Google ones.
You can reverse Google search an image. So you can probably do it with that one.
Good.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm sure we'll put it on
I've heard about this game. I haven't used it yet, but this game where it basically like drops you somewhere in the world. You know what that is?
GeoGuessr.
What is it called?
GeoGuessr.
Oh, so it just drops you somewhere and then
And you gotta guess.
you have to guess where you are.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then you can sort of scale around and look at sort of the
Yeah, you
sign.
can like move along the streets.
Yeah,
It's like Google Maps.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like a street view.
Yeah.
That's so, what is it called again? Sorry. I missed it.
GeoGuessr.
GeoGuessr. Oh, that's
I really close
cool. Awesome.
It's really convenient when it drops you near a sign of like the city or state or something like that.
That's a really cool idea. Although it drops you in your backyard, you're like, what do I do right now? It takes you like an hour to figure it out. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us for the What I Wish I Had Known Cohen Career Center sponsored event focused on the Institute for Integrative Conservation's year-long research program. So my name is Erica Grood. I'm the research program manager for the IIC. You'll hear me say IIC over and over again, but that's the Institute for Integrative Conservation Institute. We'll talk a little bit more about. But I am joined here tonight by Kathy Francillo, who I think just walked out. She's our administrator. Oh, there she is. By Kathy Francillo, who just walked in at entrance. She is the IIC's administrative coordinator. She basically makes sure that we run, and you all in this program will have an opportunity to interact with her. And she also brought all the snacks and made this whole thing happen. I'm also joined by 3 William & Mary students who are currently part of the IIC's Conservation Research Program, who have graciously volunteered to come and share their experience and answer questions about what it's like to actually participate in this program. So Sidoni Horn, Allison Walsh, and Miriam Jamin. You'll hear more about their experience after I go over sort of the introduction. So the structure of this info session will be that I'm going to start by giving you a general overview of the IIC's Conservation Research Program. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the application process as well as the expectations of students engaged in this program. And then I'm going to turn it over to the students, and I'm going to start by asking them to introduce themselves, and I'm going to ask them a series of questions about their experience, and then we'll open it up for Q&A from you all. So my hope is that we'll have plenty of time for questions. So as I go over the details of the program, please save your questions, and we'll have plenty of time at the end to answer those. So to begin, sorry, this is also another stock image. But to begin, this all starts because we know that human well-being is inextricably linked to the biodiversity of the environment. And I'm sure you're all here because you're concerned about the pace at which we're seeing rapid environmental degradation and loss of species. I'm sure that's why you're all here today. Therefore, we know, given the pace at which we're seeing this rapid environmental degradation, we know we need to bring together an inclusive community of creative leaders who can bring diverse expertise from across disciplines, sectors, and knowledge systems to develop innovative and integrative solutions to global conservation challenges. And we need innovative solutions that balance both the conservation of biodiversity, but also the impact that biodiversity has on human well-being. The Institute for Integrative Conservation, or the IIC, was established in January of 2020, thanks to a generous alumna who saw an opportunity to apply the interdisciplinary expertise across William & Mary among our students, faculty, staff, alumni, etc., to help advance integrative solutions to the world's most pressing conservation challenges. Our office is located on 221 North Boundary. It's this White House here just around the corner from Aromas. Some of you guys were at our open house on Thursday. But we see the IIC House as being this convening location to bring together this inclusive community of leaders from across the campus, of students and faculty from across the various schools and departments, as well as external conservation partners. So local NGOs, agencies, local communities, indigenous communities, corporate partners, who can all work together to come up with new, innovative solutions needed to solve some of these global conservation challenges. The mission of the IIC is to cultivate this inclusive community of leaders to deliver innovative solutions to the world's most pressing conservation challenges. So the Conservation Research Program we see as being a key tactic for achieving this mission and our goals. The specific objectives of the Conservation Research Program are to support external conservation partners. As I said, that could include conservation nonprofits, government agencies, local communities, corporate partners, any external organization that has a conservation goal. We aim to support these partners with applied research needed to advance real-world conservation outcomes. The Conservation Research Program also aims to build a diverse generation of principled, compassionate, and innovative leaders who are prepared to advance integrative and just conservation solutions. And you'll hear us say integrative over and over again, almost to the point that you're like, okay, I get it enough. And so the IIC, when we're thinking about integrative, we're thinking about bridging disciplines, bridging expertise from across sectors, as well as bringing together communities who have diverse knowledge systems and worldviews, especially those communities that are often underrepresented in the conservation field. We know, given the complexity of these challenges, we really need diverse expertise and diverse thinkers to work together to come up with new innovative solutions. So the aim of the Conservation Research Program is to match William & Mary students and faculty with external conservation partners to address world conservation challenges. So we start by looking for projects from the external conservation partners that are designed to meet a real need. So starting in August of this year, we sent out a request for proposals from within the broader conservation community, asking for them to propose projects that they think a William & Mary student and faculty could support them in addressing. So we started with an external need that these partners saw as something that they really need to advance their work. The next step now is that I'm in the process of identifying faculty mentors who have relevant expertise needed to help address those conservation challenges proposed by the conservation partners. And then the next step is to identify students, to match students with these projects based on their unique skills, perspectives, interests, and life experience. Our goal really is to match these William and Mary students who have, bring, a wealth of experience and perspectives based on their lived experience to these conservation partners, so that as a team, the faculty mentor, the faculty member, the conservation partner, and the student can work as an interdisciplinary team working on these projects. So the schedule for the Conservation Research Program starting in 2022, so this is a year-long program. It starts in the spring. So as part of the spring semester, starting in January of 2022, the students will work in collaboration with the faculty mentor, as well as with a representative from the partner organization to complete a project proposal. So this totally depends on the project, but it most likely will include a literature review, give some context for sort of how this project aligns with what's currently known about the topic. It will include compiling any relevant data. It will include getting any permissions needed to conduct the research, any permits. It will also include coming up with clear methods and approach for how you're going to tackle the project, as well as a timeline for the summer. So that research project proposal will serve as your guide throughout the summer as you complete the projects. Students in the spring are asked to register for a 2-credit course. This should be an independent research course, and you can work with your faculty mentor to identify which course best aligns with the project and your major. There's some flexibility there. The student is also asked in the spring semester to lead weekly meetings with the faculty mentor and with the conservation partner. Depending on the project, you might start by meeting with the faculty member and your conservation partner consistently, or you might have separate meetings with your faculty mentor and a separate meeting with your conservation partner. It sort of depends on the project and the schedule of your mentors. And then we ask students to participate in a weekly lab meeting. So this weekly lab meeting is with the full cohort of students. So this next year, there will be 16 students who are all part of this cohort. And the goal of this weekly lab meeting is basically to build community and to guide this community of students through the process of developing a project proposal. So the way that we've structured the lab is that we walk you through the steps of how you develop a research proposal, but then you work with your colleagues in the lab to give each other constructive feedback on the process of developing the proposal, so that you feel like you have this supportive base of students that you can tap into, who can support you with, troubleshooting, with your partner organization, etc. And then in the summer, you work closely with them as well as in the fall. So it really builds this community that you can tap into throughout the rest of the program. In the summer, the IIC gives you a stipend, which we'll talk about in a second, to complete the projects full time. So it's a full-time commitment, about 30 hours per week over a 10-week period. Hopefully, depending on what happens with COVID, for many of these projects, there's travel will be a required part of the project if we can travel. Not all projects, some of the ones that were proposed are remote, so there will not be any travel required. Some projects it's local travel here in Virginia, some projects it's domestic travel. So we have projects in Oklahoma and Texas, another project in California. And then we have some international projects. So there's a project where a student will spend 10 weeks in the Philippines, one that will spend most likely a month in Mongolia, another where a student will travel with faculty to Argentina and to El Salvador, but that totally depends on what happens with COVID. So all of the projects as they were proposed are designed to be done remotely if in fact we can't travel in 2022. In the summer, again, the student continues to meet weekly with their faculty mentor and their conservation partner, as well as meeting with their cohort of students as part of the weekly lab meetings. And then in the fall semester, so these 3 students are doing now, students will finish up any deliverables, which are defined by the conservation partners. So that could be a manuscript that will actually get published in a journal. It could be a technical report, or it could be a map or a story map or something more interactive. So the student finishes any deliverables as well as a written report, and then they communicate their project findings to the broader conservation stakeholders in a poster presentation, as you'll see here, that these students just finished, and then in an oral presentation that these students will be giving on October 29th. Again, in the fall semester, students register for a 2-credit independent research course. They continue to lead weekly meetings with their faculty and conservation mentors, and they participate in that weekly lab meeting. So the expectations for students are that they commit to the full program. This means committing to leading those weekly meetings with their faculty mentors and conservation partners and participating in those weekly lab meetings, as well as completing the research full-time throughout the summer. We ask students, because we're matching students up with external conservation partners who the IIC wants to build long-term relationships with, that we expect students to act in a professional manner. William and Mary students do that, we know, but it's especially important in this case because we are trying to foster these long-term partnerships with these conservation partners. This means leading weekly meetings, managing the project timelines and deliverables, and following all guidelines for the program, and making sure that you're in touch with the conservation partner about how they want the data used, et cetera, just making sure that you're meeting their guidelines as well. Because we want these projects to be applied and to advance a real-world conservation outcome, it's really important that students are willing to listen to their conservation partners. This is really great professional experience to think about how do you actually conduct applied research, and that starts with really listening to their needs. It requires accepting constructive feedback, which is a really difficult skill, but also really valuable. So asking for feedback, and then most importantly, the hardest part is then accepting that constructive feedback and then adapting it to your work. And it requires a willingness to learn. We've seen, and these students can talk about this, I haven't really seen a project yet where the way that the project was described at the beginning is really the way that the project ends up going. So it requires flexibility, resilience, and adaptability on your part, because it's unlikely that it's going to all go your way and all go smoothly. That's why it's such an amazing learning opportunity. As I said, it's your responsibility as a student to make sure the project meets that applied need for your conservation partner and to advocate for that. So if your faculty mentor says, hey, it'd be great if you did this, you're the one advocating for your partner's needs as well. So it's a great opportunity to sort of navigate this gap between research and conservation action. Many of these projects, well, all of the projects you're going to be working with conservation stakeholders, but many of them you're going to be working with local communities. Several of the projects, this next round, the students are going to be working closely with Indigenous communities. So it's especially important that students demonstrate cultural sensitivity, humility, and a willingness to learn from local communities. And you're going to be working collaboratively on an interdisciplinary team in the lab as part of this cohort, but also an interdisciplinary team of faculty and conservation partners. So that requires being really open to learn from experts who have specialties outside of your expertise. We ask students to embody the IIC values, which you can find on the IIC website. And we ask students to serve as ambassadors for the IIC. I don't think these students really knew that they would be serving as ambassadors for the IIC quite as often as they do, but they are really key in helping the IIC achieve our mission and broaden our outreach with students and other William and Mary and external partners. Sorry about that, looks like it got messed up, but the benefits to students are that students receive $4,000 stipend to complete the project over the summer. We will cover your travel expenses and other expenses related to the program. The students will get 2 independent research credits in the spring and the fall. The student obviously gets opportunities to build up their resume. For many of these students, they're going to be developing a manuscript or a technical report that they can put on their resume, which I have to say is crazy as an undergrad to have a published manuscript or a technical report on your resume. That's really incredible opportunity. You'll have experience working on an interdisciplinary team, as I was talking about. You'll build professional and leadership skills. You'll work on an inclusive cohort of students, and you'll get this real world experience in the conservation field. So you'll get firsthand experience learning about what it's like to work in the conservation field, and specifically what it's like to work for that partner organization, which is great because you might learn like, yes, this is definitely what I want to do. And equally important, you might learn this is definitely what I do not want to do. And so it's a really great experience to think about careers related to conservation. And then finally, you'll get a multicultural experience. So you'll have the opportunity to build your self-awareness, focus on issues related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and to learn about environmental justice, which is the foundation of all these projects. Gosh, sorry, you guys, when this got translated, it messed up some of the formatting. Eligibility. So the students are eligible for the program if they graduate on or after December of 22, and that's because obviously you have to participate in the fall program. The students who are currently in the program, as I mentioned, we are going to be providing other opportunities for them to participate in extended research. This is kind of a launch pad for students in this program to then move on to bigger projects where they have more independence. You have to be an enrolled undergraduate student, so you have to be enrolled in the spring semester and fall semester of 2022. You have to commit to the full program, as I said. It's open to students with any major or minor. In fact, we want to build a cohort of students with diverse majors and minors. They have to commit to the student expectations. If students are interested in specific projects that require travel, they obviously need to be able to travel. And then most importantly, we're looking for students who are committed to advancing integrated and just conservation solutions. So application timeline, today by 11 p.m. I will launch the application and all the projects on the IIC website. The application period is open, and I'm so sorry, we just edited this today. We gave you an extra 5 days. So the application period ends on October 27th, and we will notify students on November 5th. And then there'll be a first cohort meeting with the 2022 cohort on December 3rd. And then the first lab meeting starts in the spring semester. So characteristics of a strong application. Like I said, we're looking to build a diverse cohort of conservation leaders. So we're looking for students that have unique perspectives, skills, and life experiences that they contribute to conservation. We're looking for a thoughtful reflection from the applicants on how they can contribute to innovative and just conservation solutions. We're looking for a commitment to equity and justice in conservation, a willingness to learn, gratitude and professionalism. We're looking for students who demonstrate ability to self-reflect and a commitment to multicultural awareness. We're looking to match students' skills and expertise and interests with the project needs. So we ask students to prioritize the projects they're interested in and then talk about why that's a good match for them and how they can contribute to the program. We're looking for students interested in working on an interdisciplinary team, commitment to conservation of biodiversity and its benefits to human well-being. And we are looking for students that show initiative, interest, and passion, which obviously you're all doing that today. You're here at the closed session. So how to apply? It starts with questions about your background. So the application link will be on the IIC website. It's a Qualtrics survey, so you can go ahead and click on the survey and look at the questions before. And then I would suggest then using a Word doc or something to draft your questions and paste them in after. But before you fill out the application, make sure you review the program requirements and the project descriptions to make sure that you can commit to the full program. And please reach out to us if you have any questions. We're happy to, we know everybody's situation is unique, so please reach out to us and the other packet, I'll get back to you. We can discuss whatever questions you have. So we're looking for in this background session, obviously your name, email, your major and your minor, and confirmation that you understood all the program commitments. And then how to apply. We're looking for your unique contribution to conservation. So these are the questions, these 5 questions where we want to assess what you uniquely bring to the conservation field. So the first question is, why are you interested in the research program? Second is, what does an integrative approach to conservation mean to you? How would you apply your unique lived experience, perspective, skills, interest, and knowledge to advance integrated and just conservation solutions? How would you help build a diverse and inclusive team? And how does the program advance your academic, professional, and personal goals? So we're not just looking for a student that, got, all A's and who's really amazing at writing, a solid application. We're looking for students who can really reflect on what they uniquely bring to the conservation field and students who demonstrate a passion and interest in developing new integrative solutions. So really take some time to think about your own unique contribution to conservation. And then we ask students to prioritize their projects. So the goal, as I said, is to match student interests with the expertise needed in the project. So we ask you to identify the top 3 projects and then confirm that you've met the prereqs. So some projects do have prereqs. Some of them require that you've taken some GIS courses. Some of them do require that you speak Spanish. There are a couple that do require Spanish. So make sure you've read through the prereqs and then explain and then emphasize that you know that you can meet those prereqs. And then we ask for you to explain why you're interested in this specific project and what unique skills and experiences would contribute to this project. And we're not guaranteeing students that students will get their first project. The goal is really to match you and your skill set to the project. So we know the project proposals as they are right now are really broad. And we're working with the conservation partners throughout the fall semester, and the students will work with conservation partners in the spring semester to narrow down the project. So our goal is really just to match you with the project that we think would be the best fit for you. So application support and office hours. Reach out to us at any time, but there are going to be office hours. So this Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. at the IIC House at 221 North Boundary. You can stop in, ask questions about the projects, ask questions about the application process, brainstorm with us, like your unique contributions. So this Wednesday and next Thursday, there'll be open office hours if you'd like to come in and work with us on your application or ask any detailed questions. So then the next steps is after we get all the applications on October 27th, when the application period closes, the IIC committee will do a blind review of the applications. And we will review the applications based on the characteristics I outlined of the successful application. Then we'll notify the students who are selected on November 5th through the 8th. And then if you're selected for a project, there's a bunch of paperwork that you have to fill out with Kathy. So you're required to fill out all that paperwork to make sure that you get the stipend and participate in the project. And then you'll participate in the first cohort meeting at the end of the semester on December 3rd, and then participate in the next live meeting. I did want to emphasize that this is just one way to get involved in the IIC. This is the year-long conservation research program, but there are plenty of other ways that you can get involved in the IIC. The best way to learn about these opportunities is sign up for our listserv. We also are going to have a bunch of short-term projects that we're going to be advertising for the spring semester. So if you want just a short-term opportunity, maybe you're studying abroad or you're graduating or it just doesn't work for you in the year-long program, we'll be advertising these short-term opportunities. There'll also be summer opportunities. Robert Rose, our executive director, is working on a suite of conservation GIS focused projects. So he's working on this new lab that'll be focused primarily on bringing together students to work on applied GIS projects related to conservation. We're working with external partners to identify internships that they're offering so we can advertise those to students. We have a suite of integrative conservation courses, as well as a new minor in integrative conservation, and we're working on launching a major. So the best way to learn about this is to go to our website and dig through some of that information. We also have several upcoming events. It's a really good way to learn about conservation. This year, our events are focused on Indigenous voices in conservation. We also have a student leadership council. So we're going to be looking for nominations for that council starting next year. So that student leadership council helps us make decisions at IIC about how we broaden our reach and make decisions about our work. There are often student positions that come up. So we have 2 student assistant positions right now. 2 students who are just starting. We're going to be helping us with events and marketing. And if you're interested in conservation and you have any ideas on how you want to get involved in conservation, we're so new that we're looking for ideas from students. So if you decide like, hey, I'm super into jellyfish conservation and I have this partner that's interested in supporting me in doing this research, come to us and brainstorm with us. We're so new that we're looking for opportunities to match students with conservation partners to do applied research. All right, so now the good stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to Sidoni, Allison, and Miriam to talk a little bit about their background. So I'll have you start by introducing yourself, your major, your minor, and then talk a little bit about your project. Sidoni, I'll let you start.
Okay, so my name is Sidoni. I'm a senior majoring in biology with a minor in data science. And this year, my project has been looking at land cover change in both continental subject area outside of the Ulaanbaatar and Mongolia. So it's basically a combination of literature review, policy research, and remote sensing analysis. So on one side, we are compiling a list of political laws regarding protected area management and development, GDP history, and stuff like that. As at the same time, we're making maps showing the change in type of land cover in this protected area with the final goal of like seeing what the correlation is there. And so that my partner is Wildlife Conservation Society in Mongolia, and so they want to be able to essentially like propose better management types and give feedback to the government on what policies are working, and so that people can have policy that tend towards the goals of what they want to see the park going towards.
I'm Allison. I'm a senior and I'm majoring in environmental science and American studies. And my conservation partner, it's a little different from the other projects because it's actually here at William & Mary. I was working with the Office of Sustainability, and I developed a sustainability toolkit, which is basically a 5-step framework for William & Mary offices and departments to create their own sustainability plans that will hopefully help further our university goals.
Hi everyone, my name is Miriam. I'm a senior majoring in bio, and I'm working with the Wildlife Conservation Society, the Mesoamerica program, and they are in their very early stages of developing a marine conservation strategy for the Caribbean, and they identified seagrasses as a very important organism to begin conserving because there's a lot of ecological and economic value. And so my project was basically identifying how much seagrass habitat will be lost over time as a result of sea level rise, based on various carbon emission scenarios.
Thank you all. I was hoping maybe you could reflect on how this program influenced your William & Mary experience. You might start with it.
So I think I spent a lot of time like lab hopping in different bio-related labs, and I think that this is definitely one where I found that I enjoy the work and really feel like I can contribute within the lab. So it's definitely influenced like me staying in research while I'm in school, significantly improved my GIS skills on a lot of real world applications.
Yeah, I agree. I also like that the IIC is like fairly new because it feels like we're like helping launch the program a lot, which is cool. And then since my project specifically is like at William & Mary, it's been really cool to like see the impact and be able to interact and interview like a lot of different offices here. So I feel like I've become like even more ingrained in the campus community from this.
Yeah, like Allison said, it's a pretty new community, so it's nice to like be a part of this new culture. And also for me personally, it's been a lot of character building because I'm not the best at GIS, so it was good in a way for me to build confidence, speak to other people who knew more than I did, and also just learning a lot of new things about GIS too.
Thank you all. So what was your favorite part of the program?
I think I really enjoy getting to like meet other leaders in conservation and also work with people at the IIC like Rob, Lauren, Erica, and everyone, and get to like know those faculty better. You at least with the partners I've worked on, because I did this program last year as well. They tend to give you a lot of like leadership, and that's really fun and intimidating with people that are significantly senior and have very advanced degrees in their fields. That's a really cool experience that I think is difficult to get as an undergraduate.
Yeah, kind of adding off of that, I think my favorite part has been like all the marketable skills we've learned as a lab. In the weekly lab meetings, we have like focused on different kinds of skills like oral and written communication, leadership, interviewing different people, things like that. And then also just completing the projects in general has built a lot of skills for all of us, like different for each project, but in general, I feel like we've all gotten a lot better at like presenting our work, writing about our work and things like that. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, same here. I think for me, it's two things. Number one, the skills that I developed in the lab, I didn't develop anywhere else, which is nice because at least every week you have time to dedicate to personal development, which is, communication, speaking to people who are, more senior than you. But also one of the best things happened recently was when my partner said that my GIS maps was really helpful. Like I was showing him my deliverable for the first time essentially, and he was saying, wow, this is really helpful. And what's interesting is all of the data that I used for the project was just open source. Like he didn't provide any information for me to use. So just the applied nature of the project was just the highlight of my year.
So going off script a little bit, sort of building on that, Miriam, can you all talk a little bit about, the goal of this, as you said, Miriam, is that we want to make sure that the deliverables are useful for the conservation partner. How have you all navigated that with your conservation partners? How do you assess what their needs are, and how have those potentially changed throughout sort of your experience in the program?
So like I said, I did this program last year as well. And I think that the organization of the whole program is getting significantly better.
Although we're still working on it.
No, like it is really good. First year, it's just because the first year I was working for American Birth Service team, and it was a little bit unclear about what exactly they wanted me to do, and I think they didn't know what they wanted me to do a little bit past a certain point. Also because the team I was working for didn't have anyone that did GIS, and they wanted me to do GIS things, but didn't really know what the options were with that. So there's definitely a lot of back and forth, and this year, going in with WCS, there's a lot more proactive about that and making sure that we are on the same page every step of the way. I'm working with I'm working with an undergraduate in Mongolia as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we check in a lot, just the two of us, even more than we do with Rob and our partner at WCS, Kurt Olson, because we want to make sure that the two of us are also on the same page between she was used to a different software, and then she knows the area better than I do, and there's a language barrier. So just a lot of communication, checking in constantly, I think is how we manage, like making sure you have the same expectations as your partner.
Yeah, Sidoni piloted that model this year, and we have a couple projects we're hoping this year we'll have, the William Mary student will have a partner from the area. There'll be hopefully a student in the Philippines, and maybe in Argentina. We'll be working with the William Mary student on the project part of the interdisciplinary. So Sidoni was gracious enough to pilot that for us, and I think it went really well. I think having a team of students working on projects is a successful model.
Yeah, so for mine, I'm creating like the prototype of a sustainability toolkit. So it's like the first 1.0, I guess, is what it is. So this is going to be passed probably on to the Office of Sustainability, who might give it to a student, or they might take it and run with it. So in the beginning of the year, I'm working with Calandra, and she's the Director of Sustainability at the Office of Sustainability, and she and Professor John Swaddle, who I'm also working with, they didn't really know what a sustainability toolkit was, what it was going to look like, and neither did I. So just last week, Calandra was like, "Oh my gosh, we started from zero. We had no idea what it was going to be, and we just kind of figured it out ourselves." And it was helpful to bounce ideas off of both of them while I figured out how to make this thing that isn't really a widespread thing at all.
Yeah, so if you go on the website and you look at my project description, you will find that it's not true. So it does not match at all what I just did for this year. And even throughout the program, my partners did not know what their project would be until March, and our proposal was due in April. So from February, I was participating in lab discussions, not really knowing what to say because I just didn't know what my project was. But finally having something that they can actually use, especially since my partner's on the ground in Belize, it's a nice feeling because you know that the research that you did actually means something to someone, as opposed to working in a lab in the IIC where you don't actually see the impact necessarily right away.
Yeah, and Mary handled that so well. And so I came to William and Mary from the conservation field, and unfortunately I can say that that's really useful experience, because it's rare that in the conservation field, depending on, I can say whatever you do, if it's a small nonprofit or if it's a large agency or a large organization, it's common that you start a project and not really know what the project is, or not really know who's going to use it. And so that's really valuable experience, although stressful when you have to produce something in a month. So what do you wish you had known about this program before applying? And I told them to please be honest about things that they really wish they had known, or challenges that they faced. So you won't be offending me, but I want you guys to be honest. So what is something that you wish you had known about this program before?
I think it's something we've all kind of touched on a little bit already, but your partners might not either know what's going on or how necessarily they should be interacting with you or what their role is. And I think that I had like two very drastic different experiences with that. And so that can be hard to navigate, especially if you are younger maybe or haven't done as much other research, that you really sometimes like have to be very proactive about telling people who are titled directors at large organizations to come to your meeting. And there definitely have been times where I like email Rob and say, this person isn't showing up and I really need them. What do I do? Can I just tell them to come? And he's like, yes, they know that that's what they're supposed to do. They probably just forgot, so it's okay. But I think it would have been nice. Yeah, that was something I would have liked to know is just that the partner organizations are not always clear what's happening or what's expected of them. I think it definitely is getting better. This year's been way better than last year. But I feel like it is on an individual basis.
Yeah, building off of that, like also our mentors and our partners, obviously they have their full-time jobs too. So like, although this was our full-time thing in the summer, like they have other things to do. So like Sidonie was saying, it really is like coming up with innovative solutions and like being a creative person. And I've never done research before. So it was a little bit of like an adjustment at first. And obviously I'm really like happy that I did go through that and like I've built a lot of skills from that, but that is something I wasn't expecting. I was kind of like, oh, are they just gonna give me like the step-by-step what to do? But that isn't what research is about. And that's like the fun of it too.
Yeah, for me, it was just understanding the dynamics of my partner and how they operated because, you know, they worked with Sidonie, although it was a different program within the IIC, and they've worked with other students in past years, but I didn't realize that I was gonna meet with them as infrequently as I did. So they just basically gave me the premise of the problem, and it was my job to like interact with VINs, the CGA, different professors altogether. So that's number one. And number two, I would say, I wish I was more GIS savvy at the time of applying. I only took one class, not just fresh out of it. Just submitted my final and I applied for the project. And at least like now looking back, like not being GIS savvy is a big thing because I grew a lot from it, but it would have been helpful in the process too.
You all touched on this, but somebody who's been watching you navigate these projects is, you know, a lot of these conservation organizations, I can say partners who have proposed projects this year, a lot of them have been in the conservation field for a long time. And so it can be really intimidating, as they said, like to propose a new idea. You feel like you should just be listening to sort of the guidance that they give you. But they want to work with William & Mary students because they want students to come up with new innovative ideas, things that they haven't thought of before. And so I know it can be really intimidating, but our partners have said they really appreciate the ideas and the perspective that the students have brought to these projects. And so we are trying to help students as part of the lab build the confidence to propose those ideas, even though I know that can be really intimidating, especially when you're working with somebody who's maybe the CEO of a huge conservation organization. But they want to hear from students. That's why they propose these projects.
And it was competitive too. If you think it's competitive from your point of view, it was very competitive for them to get their projects on the table to share with all of you. There were a lot that didn't make the cut, let's put it that way. So it's very competitive to get William & Mary students as well. So they want.
Oh, yeah. And we had almost 40 projects that were proposed from conservation partners. We had to whittle it down to 15. Also, we've been like beating off the partners who are saying like, we're gonna hire the student immediately. They don't even finish the undergraduate degree. We're gonna hire them now. We're like, so they are really excited about these opportunities, and it's proven concept that the work that you're doing is useful. And I am confident that this will open up doors for all the students in the program to conservation field, because if you've already worked as a consultant for them and they have an internship or a new position, obviously that's really useful for you because you've already worked for them. Okay, the last question is, what is your advice to these students who are interested in applying for this program?
Like fill out the application. I think that the first year that I applied for it, I pretty sure I submitted the application the night before it was due. Yeah, and that was like a spur of the moment decision, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities for me. I think that's mostly it. In terms of like classes, some of them are GIS related. I like GIS, so I recommend taking a GIS class.
I feel like since you guys are all here and you're hearing about it, definitely like start reading through the projects now. I don't even remember how I found out about it, but I like did the application in one day, kind of like you, and like I ranked my projects, and this was my first choice, but looking back, I wish I had been like looked through the projects more and been more intentional about it. Ended up working out for me, but since you guys have the time, like definitely look through the projects and think about it and then apply.
Yes, so those were good points. I would actually say, if you don't have any conservation sustainability experience, but you really want to join, just really convey your passion. So I'm really grateful that Erica took a chance on me because I didn't have any conservation or sustainability experience. I was at home since spring break 2020, so I didn't have a chance to really get involved on campus and actually have demonstrated interest. So if you convey your passion, I think that can override any lack of skill. And also, like Allison said, read through the projects. Like this was my first choice project, but the description was really vague. Like even I consulted one of my advisors and I said, what do you think of this project? He says, I don't really know what you're gonna do with it. But it sounds really cool, so just go for it. And that's what I did. So just read through the project, even if it doesn't make sense, just apply anyway.
Yeah. That's definitely the case for some of these projects because we have some new partners and we asked them to just propose a challenge. So the descriptions you're going to see that I'm going to hit launch on tonight, the descriptions that you see are very broad for most of them. So just know that you will go through a process of narrowing them down. And Marian did such a fantastic job of keeping sort of her mind open about the possibilities. So I would say like if you are like business major and you see a business oriented project, definitely apply for that one and put that on your list, but also brainstorm and think about like, what are some other projects that I might be able to tap into my other expertise for, and think about experience and in your expertise outside of just the classes that you've taken or the experience that you have. We're looking for students that can bring really unique perspectives or interests. Like if you're a business major, but you really love art and you do art in your free time, think about how you could apply that as well. Or if you've had an interesting experience because you grew up on a farm in Virginia, think about like, how can you apply that expertise to these projects as well? So think outside of just the skills that you gained throughout in the classroom and think about your skill sets that you gained throughout your lifetime. Now I'm going to open up to you all to ask questions. You can ask the 3 students questions or ask Kathy and I questions about the application process.
This is a little bit oddly specific. You said some of the projects I know you mentioned, like Argentina and El Salvador, and you require Spanish. What is the level of Spanish? Is it like fluent, or?
It totally depends on the project. So you'll see. There's one also, sorry, I forgot one I mentioned is in Mexico City. That one, the student will be working alongside students from Mexico. And so that will require students to be fluent, obviously. But the one in Argentina, the one in El Salvador, the student will be traveling with faculty mentors, obviously speak Spanish. So there might be a little bit more flexibility. But it would be very helpful for you to be fluent. That's the only language requirements. There are 3 project requirements.
Yeah, so I've like taken Spanish, but it hasn't been since last fall semester. I've taken it since like 6th grade, but I definitely wouldn't consider myself fluent. So it's just kind of like I didn't know how fluent you needed to be.
All the mentors from the conservation organization speak English, but for all of those projects, you'll be working with local communities and traveling. So influence Spanish. Good question. So one thing I did want to mention is that a lot of these projects we're hoping that students can travel, and the way that the projects were designed, we're hoping that students will be able to do field work. We can obviously adapt it if we need to, if students can't travel. But right now, we don't have all of the details down for all the projects as far as how long you'll be traveling, and what time period you'll be traveling throughout the summer. So there's a question application asking if you're available to travel, and throughout the fall, if you're selected for that project, we'll work with you to narrow down the specifics of that travel. So I know there's a project in the Philippines that will require 10 weeks of travel. There are a couple that just require a couple of weeks of travel. So it'll vary quite a bit. We just unfortunately don't have those details at this point.
I think the question asks you that specifically too, like, can you travel? Yes. Maybe I didn't put that in there, but if it is yes, I can travel within the United States, put that. Yes, I can travel internationally. No, I can't travel at all, but let us know, because when match-up time comes up.
Any other questions?
How much of a time commitment have you found it to be during the spring and fall semesters with all your classes, other classes?
Great question.
Well, so the weekly lab meetings are 50 minutes, so there's that, but then and then there's the weekly meetings with your partners, which for me, it's usually like under 30 minutes. And then outside of that, like 2 to 3 hours a week, I would say. It's really not like a big burden on top of your other classes, but like do keep that in mind when you're registering for classes, that like don't overload yourself and then on top of that have this, just so you make sure you have like time to do this.
It definitely fluctuates throughout the project as well. Sometimes you'll be waiting for your partner to do something, and then you'll have a deadline to meet either for the lab, like internally at William and Mary, or for your partner. But it hasn't been too much. Similarly, over the summer, I know in my experience, it's never been a consistent like 30 hours, because sometimes again you have to wait for your partner to give you information, and you can do literature review, but only so much if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. So it definitely fluctuates, but it's never been not manageable.
Yeah, last Monday I spent 6 hours in Scrum, but like that was the most time I've ever spent in a single sitting. So yeah, it really just averages about 4 hours. I feel like if you have a GIS, remote sensing, LiDAR project, that might be more time, just because if you're not familiar with the software, it takes time to learn it. But other than that, I would bank on 4 hours a week max.
That's part of the process of developing the project proposal in the spring, is to work with faculty mentor and the conservation partner on the schedule for the summer. So the faculty mentor's primary job is to make sure that you're not overloaded and doing something that's beyond the scope of what you can actually accomplish over that year. But I think you probably all can weigh in on this, but it's also up to you to advocate for yourself. So if you're like, this is way more than the allotted 5 to 6 hours that I'm supposed to be spending on this, we're here to help support you and make sure that we then work with the conservation partners to make sure we're not asking too much. Other questions?
How relevant has your coursework and other research experience been in these projects? Is it really different since you're working with a conservation partner, or are there similarities between like what you have done in classes and on your own research? So for me, it happens to be pretty similar. I've been doing all GIS stuff in college in biofields. So I'd say at least my GIS coursework is very applicable.
For me, like not really at all. Like I'm an environmental science major, so obviously that I guess has helped a little bit, but there's not too much overlap because mine is a little different.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of overlap for me. I mean, I'm a bio major. If I took conservation biology, probably would have helped, but the GIS class I took sufficed. So that's the only overlap.
Been a couple students who I think have been able, who are like working on projects as part of the class, and have been able to work on portions of their project as part of the class, but yeah, in general, it seems like these projects are independent. But if you're really strategic, you can sign up for classes that would help support your project. Right, any other questions? Okay, so like I said, feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. I know that any of the students currently in the program would be happy to answer more questions as well. So if you reach out to us and want to speak to a student, we can connect you. We have the open office hours on Wednesday and next Thursday if you want to come in and think through and brainstorm your unique contributions to conservation, or if you want to ask more detailed questions about the project. But visit the IIC website. Tonight I will be launching the application and all the projects. I'm just waiting on a couple of partners to approve language. To their point earlier, because sometimes you're waiting for them to approve something before you can launch it. And yeah, thank you all for coming. Please grab some food, grab stickers. We also have some notebooks over there.
Erica, are you gonna put the questions on the website, or would that be possible? Because you know how when you get in Qualtrics and it's like, oh, I have to think about that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll put them on the webpage too, so you don't have to go through the Qualtrics.
Will this PowerPoint be available anywhere?
Yes, although I'm gonna fix it.
Right.
I did it on Canva for the first time. Have you guys ever done that?
Yeah, I just worked with Canva for a group project for class, and we kept trying to download it, and then everything would move as soon as we did download it.
Darn, see, I did that right before I came, as I downloaded off of Canva. Amateur move, sorry guys. So I'll edit it and then I'll upload it on the website. Yeah. Okay. All right, well, thank you all. Yeah, please grab some food, grab stickers. And yeah, Sidoni, Allison, and Mary, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.